Welcome to Complex Kids Simple Solutions, the podcast for parents raising complex and neurodivergent kids who are doing their best in systems that don't always make things easy. I'm Michelle Shoaidi, founder of Special Education Concierge, a mom to a complex kid, a speaker, and an advocate. This space isn't about perfection. It's about real life, the hard days, the small wins, the moments where you wonder if you're doing enough, and the moments where you realize you are. Here we talk honestly, share practical insight, and simplify what feels overwhelming. One conversation at a time. You are your child's hero. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Complex Kids Simple Solutions. I'm so excited to have Kira here today. I have to tell you the story about her. Well, first of all, welcome. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I found her on Facebook and Instagram and all these cool places that were all in social media. And I was watching her videos, and she is so good with the kids. And I was looking and I was like, I love speech therapists. So I connected with her that way. I actually found her, and she was super nice to actually come on the podcast. So welcome.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, like I said, she's a speech therapist. And so speech therapists, they have like a little, piece of my heart because we started so early. I think that the majority of my listeners, they know my son has a rare genetic disorder called TBR1. His very first diagnosis was actually childhood apraxia of speech. And so we've grown up with speech therapists, and he's 12 and he still goes to speech therapy. We're trying to increase it to twice a week outside of school, and he still gets twice a week in the school. But anyway, so tell us about you, where you are, what you're doing, how did you get into speech, and tell us all the good stuff.
Okay. So I live in Utah, and I have a small private practice that I run from my home. Just have a home office here, and I see kids 2 to 3 times a week. Try to fit in just like around my kids' schedules. Basically, I have 4 of my own kids, and I've been practicing. For 15 years. I can't believe it's been that long. Wow. 15 years. And I've had my home practice for 10 now. And I started when my oldest son was turned 11. Yeah. So it started as kind of like, I just need to use my brain and get out of mom mode and have something to do, because I'm like, I've worked so hard for that degree. I just need to use it. And it's kind of morphed into a bigger thing where I've just seen, as my practice has grown, I've just seen a lot of kids with severe phonological disorders and apraxia, which was just so interesting because in grad school, they were like, oh, you're probably never going to see this. And I'm like, I just saw enough kids where I was like, something is going on. And so I started going to more trainings and just trying to educate myself more on apraxia and autism. Those are kind of my 2 things. I work with kids. I like using like a floor approach to autism and kids with apraxia.
Yeah.
And it just kind of led to me doing that advanced training that I think it's the what
Apraxia
foundation is
Kids?
It's not.
Apraxia
I really
Kids.
want to go to their boot long.
It wasn't?
It's
Their
the
boot
one that
camp?
Edith Span puts out, the advanced training. You could do like the first 4
Okay,
hours
DTTC, is
online.
that the one?
Yeah, it's the DTC one. Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
like 2 years. Yeah, so I went to that 2 years ago, and that was so amazing. I loved that. That was so helpful.
Yeah.
And I've done a little bit of prompt training. So I'm just constantly trying to like learn more about supporting these kids, because they come through my door and I'm like, oh, I need to get more educated. I need to figure out more about how to like reach these kids. So it was really born out of like a need. Yeah.
So this is the thing, right? Back then, so my son is 12. So back then when we figured this out, like it took a long time to actually get that childhood apraxia speech diagnosis.
Hard to get diagnosed. Yeah.
Because it's like he doesn't even have any sounds. But I'll tell you a quick story because I think that you'll appreciate this. And I don't know if the listeners have heard this or not, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So my son, when he was about 3, he didn't speak. So we were going from early intervention to the school district, going through that transition. And at that time, I remembered that I had this roommate that was a speech therapist and worked for the school district. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask her to go to lunch. We sat down, we talked, and she told me about an apraxia camp that Nancy Kaufman used to put on. So the kids would go and they would see her, and like it was an intensive. And so I was like, okay, perfect. So, the way that I am, I figured stuff out and I made a video. I sent it to her. She calls me the next morning and she says, Michelle, this is Nancy Kaufman. And I was like, oh, hi, Nancy. And she goes, Michelle, I cannot help your son. I can't, he doesn't have anything. Like he doesn't have words. So I can't help him. So you need to go see my friend, Lori Overland. And she is out in Connecticut. And that's who you need to go see. And I said, okay. She's like, I'm going to put you an email with her. So just, figure it out. And I was like, okay, I only live in California. So
It's just
close,
all the way
right?
on the other side.
So we went to see Lori Overland and it was an amazing experience. Like she's so good. So good. And, we started with all the talk tools that she goes into and we just, really into that. And then that led us to the one Southern California person who had done an apraxia kids. Back then it was another name for the anyway,
They have that
she had done
week-long
the
camp
boot
that they
camp.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she had done the boot camp. She was like super well, like so good. And her name was Lisa Klein. She's still in California, in Los Angeles. She's in Santa Monica. And gosh, it was like life changing. But my husband would drive my son an hour and a half over there for a 30-minute speech, hour and a half back home 2 or 3 times a week. It was crazy. So that
Yeah.
tells you like how much like we've grown. And then we found the one that he has now. He's been with her since he was 4 and she's amazing. So, and she for the boot camp that they have to pick a child and she had him. So
You do those
her boot
assignments, yeah.
camp study was my son. And so that's how long we've been involved in the apraxia world. But okay, so go back to you because we already talked about me enough. But your practice, so you're at home, which that is unusual. Where do you
It
live in
is.
Utah?
So I live in a little town called Cedar Hills. It's right between like American Fork, Pleasant Grove. So a bigger reference point would be
Okay.
Provo, if people know Provo. It's
Yeah.
about a half hour
Yeah.
from Provo, about 45 minutes from
I
Salt
went
Lake.
to BYU. I
Yeah,
went to
okay,
BYU.
yeah.
So
I'm up the
yes,
street from
yes, I know
BYU
exactly where
otherwise.
that is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
Perfect.
it really just it
So,
just is like it just works for now because my children are
mhm,
between the ages of 6 and 12, and I just am to the place where it's
4.
like, I'm not ready to rent a space. Yeah, I have 4 kids between 6 and 12, and I'm not ready to rent a space, and I have this home office, and at first I was like, I don't know if people are, like, gonna like this, but I have a lot of families who really appreciate that it's not a huge hospital, it's close for a lot of
Mhm.
people, and it just has worked for the time being, so, it's been a blessing for me.
And it's crazy, Kura, because here's the thing, like, think that speech disorders, diagnosis, autism, all of those things are, it's like the chicken and the egg thing. So we're either
Yeah,
diagnosing more right now and we're
yeah.
actually catching it sooner and we're getting the diagnosis and they're not the little crappy kids that just don't listen to you, right? Or like something is in the water
Or it's
or in
full
the
prevalent, yeah.
food or,
No,
which,
I talk about that
I
with friends a
it
lot, trying to figure out that, like, why is that? And at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't know, but I appreciate that at least the mindset I see culturally shifting to like, let's
yes,
meet a child where they're at and provide some support. And I also think that
early
like
intervention.
yeah, early intervention, and I know that, like, parents have the biggest say here, and I feel like, at least culturally, I'm seeing a shift in doctors listening to parents be like, "Something is off." And instead, I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of pediatricians be like, "Well, you can kinda wait and fill it out." And I usually tell parents, like, "If something feels off, do something. You don't need a pediatrician to go get a PT evaluation or an OT or speech. You can." And, I mean, out of pocket might be a little expensive, but in my mind, it's super worth that peace of mind. And a lot of times, like,
Yes.
parents' intuition is spot on. Like, if something's
Yes.
off, I can't tell you how many times parents are like, "I just noticed something," like, when they were, like, 1, and I'm like, You're
Mhm.
right, there was, like, this speech thing
Yeah.
going on here," or, like, maybe it started at speech, and then then I'll make a referral to PT or OT, and I think
Yeah.
there's been a
Yeah.
big shift in, like, trust. The parents are the experts, they know their child best, and if they're saying something is off, they're usually right, and I
I
appreciate
call
that,
that
like,
the
the
mama gut.
medical and education is catching up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I call it
and
the
I'm sure
mama
that's
gut.
probably your experience.
If you feel it, like I was the crazy person. I was the crazy mom that was at the doctor's office every week.
Something's
And I'm like,
wrong, right?
something is wrong, something is wrong, something is wrong, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I was crazy, and it got to a point that they were like, "I think your wife is kind of maybe making the stuff up." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, here we go." So it was
Yeah, yeah, I
awful
know.
back then, but
Yeah.
it's true. And so how early are you getting the kiddos? Because 'Cause you're kind of in the middle of
Oh,
nowhere.
yeah.
How
No,
early
it
are
just
they coming to
depends.
you?
I see kids I see, like, that very, I would say, stereotypical late talker. They're, like, 1.5 to 3. They don't have a lot of words. I see a bunch of those
Mhm,
kids that just need some speech and, like, coaching with the parents of, like, this is how we can kind of help them learn these communication
mhm,
skills. And for apraxia, especially, like, a lot of times I see a kid when they're really young,
mhm,
and you kinda spoke to this. When they're really young, you can't really diagnose apraxia until they can try to imitate some words with you. You might suspect it,
mhm.
right, based on a lot of these other things. So a lot of times I'll be like, "Let's
Yes.
watch for these things," and when they're willing to imitate with me, then you can get a diagnosis of, like, because 'cause you're looking for that, like, the transition gestures. Are they able to move between those sounds? Is their prosody off? Are their vowels
Mhm,
sounding weird or is it inconsistent? Like, you need a little bit of speech to be able to diagnose that. So in my experience, sometimes I'll be like, "I think I'm seeing some stuff," and I can't formally diagnose it, but I start treating it from a motor standpoint. And a lot of times when it starts
mhm.
clicking, then I'm kind of like, I'm still gonna do that evaluation when we have enough
Y
sound combinations too. But I usually
Uh-huh.
tell we're gonna treat it like it is, and because also treating a motor disorder with motor techniques, like, it only helps. It doesn't hurt. So,
Yes,
like, trying it out,
for
it's not
sure.
gonna hurt. And if later they
Yeah.
don't get that diagnosis, because it's one of those things where unless you've been trained to diagnose and treat apraxia, you shouldn't be doing that because it's very, like, there's an art to it, and you have to follow, like, how many situations do we see it, what signs are we seeing, in which context, and you shouldn't be, like, just guessing that, right? That being said, there's so many trainings available now for SLPs that I feel like more and more people are getting into it, and it's becoming less of like a, "There's one in the whole state who can treat," right? So,
Yes.
but I will say if you have questions, like, go to a speech therapist, and if they are seeing weird things, look for a specialist. I have totally referred people in other states because you can only treat in states you're licensed. And I'll be like, here's this
Mhm.
Apraxia Kits website. Go find a specialist in your state because it's going to make a big
Yeah.
difference. Be a specialist to the disorder. Like, find someone who's really good at that.
Yeah, for sure. They're 100% on
It's
that, and
hard. It's hard.
you touched on something that I have been saying forever. So, the the good providers, very good providers, are usually not taking insurance.
Yeah. I've
As
noticed
a
that in other health
mom,
areas too.
as a dad, as a family, this is hard.
It is hard.
It's hard for me to go and pay, $115 for 30 minutes of speech therapy
It is
twice a
hard.
week.
It is hard.
Right? So,
Yeah,
if you
it
look at
is.
it, it's like you're going into $400-500 a month. If you're going 3 times a week, which is what you're supposed to do when you have childhood apraxia of speech, and, 3 to 4 times, you're like, what can I do? Like, how do I even do this?" So,
It's so
through the years, I kinda learned, like, so we need to fight with the insurance company to see if we can move them into an in-network, and then we still have to pay out of pocket, but at least part of it is paid through the insurance and all of that. But it is unfortunate because really the good providers are not taking insurance because it's not worth it their time.
it is a
And
headache.
so, and what happens is that because the parents don't know any better, they end up with speech therapists who are not trained in childhood apraxia speech. And if your child has that diagnosis, you have to make sure that you get a speech therapist who has experience or training or something like that with it. And it drives me crazy when they say, "Oh yeah, I treat apraxia," but they really and it makes a difference. You can see it's night and day on the way that you practice.
Well, and
At
I would
least,
still say, like, I'm not an expert. I feel like I've done trainings, but there's still there I always feel like I'm learning new stuff all the time too. I feel like I have enough experience to treat it, but it's still like, I also have met clinicians who've been doing this for 20 years, and, like, I learned so much from them and their videos and
yeah,
their trainings. Like, there's
yeah,
just always more to be learned. And I will say, like, good therapists across the board, not just speech, but they have the humility to refer. Like, I have stuff,
yes,
like, I don't know a lot about myo, like tongue exercises, and if I see a kid that has myo, I'm gonna refer them, and, like, there's, like, you have areas of specialty, and I think a lot of,
yes,
and I can only speak to the speech world, but being able to be like, "I'm not an expert in this," knowing my niche and being like, "I know people I can send you to, though." So I also,
yeah,
like, would say tell parents,
yeah,
like, if you don't see on their website or they don't say, like, "These are, like, my 2 to 3, like, I have a lot of training in these things," feel free to ask,
hmm
like, "Do you know somebody with specialized training in this or this or
yes,
this?" And a lot of people will
yes,
be like, "I can send you somewhere." Because parents, I just
Yeah.
feel for they are starting from ground zero and they're just like doing all this detective work. They had to fight to get a doctor to take them seriously. They had to fight for a diagnosis.
Yes.
And then they're often left to like, now you find all the therapies that your child needs and you have to figure out if they're really good at it or not. And
There's no
it's really
manual.
yeah, there's no
There's no
manual,
manual.
and it's a
No.
lot of work. And so I say, like, tell
Yeah.
parents, like, you're already if you're at this stage, you're already your child's best advocate. You've already made it this far, and
Yes.
keep pressing
Yes.
in those therapists. Like, if ask for like, what trainings have you done? Ask those hard questions, and if you're not
Hmm.
happy with it, you can totally ask for like, do you know somebody? Like, I have
Yeah.
patients at time that like someone's a better fit for them. People come to me from other speech therapists, and we just like
Hmm.
we get it. You got to go where it's the best
Yeah.
fit for you and your family.
For
But
sure.
yeah.
For sure. So, when I saw your videos online, and if you guys just look her up, we'll have it on the show notes, but you should look her up because her videos are so cute and they're so good.
Thank you.
So like, and that's she just pulled me in right away as I was watching, and maybe it's because, like I said, I have that soft, spot in my heart for for
Right.
speech pathologists out there. But she is so so good, and I think that a lot of time it you have to, this is one of the things that I tell the parents that I work with too. You have to mesh with the providers.
Yes.
They have to come in, they have to be a part of your child's team. And when that doesn't happen, then it shouldn't be there. Anyway, so tell us why you started this whole like social media stuff, and because I think that that's
Right.
pretty cool. Like I haven't seen a lot of speech, a lot of speech pathologists online, and maybe
Right.
I'm just not seeing it. It's just not pulling up. But I think that that's awesome.
When I've like fresh out of graduate school, when I was in college, like I think Facebook came out when I was in college, right? So it wasn't really a thing. And as I was first out practicing, I would see these videos of these techniques to try. And I'm like, that is so helpful to see a therapy technique in a session is like, oh, that was
Mhm.
super helpful. And I feel like I just learned a lot from
Yes.
watching much more experienced speech therapists do that. And eventually I was like, I had this idea, like something I thought would be helpful. And I started making just short clips. And I tried to be really good about like, it's child's never in the video, right? I don't
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
having it
You
be
don't
like,
want to burn through
here
HIPAA.
explain. Yeah.
Yes.
And with parent consent, of course. And I just feel like maybe therapists are looking also for new ideas, for new techniques to try. I still learn from other speech therapists on social media all the time too, of like, I'm going to try that strategy with this kid. I just like it's a
Yeah.
great way of idea sharing. And a lot of times, like, it's just either a quirky idea I had or it was some prompting that I saw somewhere and I tried to. So it's not even like it's a whole
Mhm.
like I have all of these ideas in my head. It's accumulation of like stuff I've either learned through clinical experience or also seen and maybe tweaked or even put out like I saw this other person do this and I tried it and had this idea. It's just it kind of
Mhm.
just snowballed
Mhm.
from there where like it's just kind of what
Yeah.
I post. I try to post a therapy video every few weeks and it's kind of all I do.
I
That's
love
my
it.
social media. It's a little therapy video.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, I love that because it opens up, like, for parents to see. Like, this is, sometimes, like, it got to a point where me being in the room with my child was more distracting than helpful. And
Yeah,
so I
totally.
started I would just stay outside. And, a lot of these kiddos have ADHD and they have the behaviors and things like that. And sometimes they tell me that they do much better without me, or they're either lying or it's the truth. Like it's a 50-50
No, I see
chance.
that. I see that too. Some kids love their mom being there, and some kids just do a little bit better when mom's not right in the room with them?
Yeah.
I definitely see that.
So, but I think that it's important to see what it is that you guys are doing. I love watching your videos because I'm like, oh, look at her. And do you know what I see? So my son is 12. He all self corrects himself now. So for example, he'll say back, back. So he goes, because he says back, back, what was it? Pack, pack. And
Right.
so back, and he goes like this because it's in the, and so he goes and he does it to himself and he corrects himself. But these are things that you guys use that sometimes it's helpful to see what you're doing and how you're teaching the kids. So,
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
also, like, a trial and error thing too, where, like, sometimes, like, I do a lot of, like, prompts with my hands and my face, and I think it helps with the
Mhm.
attention sometimes. Sometimes it helps them,
Yes.
there's just so many different ways to prompt with, a child trying to get a new sound, and a lot of times it's just trial and error of, like, maybe they need help with that placing, and sometimes my hand is, like, going back and forth to show the tongue, or maybe I'm using it like a snake sound.
Mhm.
It's more of like a metaphorical cue. But a lot
Yes.
of it is just
I
that
saw
like
the snake one online.
yeah, and I feel like everybody does that one too time to time, right? Let's do the
Yeah.
snake sound, and we all do like and
Yes.
sometimes just adding that movement or the gesture and pulling it by my face, because a lot of kids, they don't wanna just stare at my face, and I kinda, like, make it more engaging, bring them in somehow, and it's
Yeah.
also it varies. Some kids do a lot better with, like, a stick in their mouth and their flavor, and they can feel like, "Oh, that's where my tongue needs to
Mm,
go," and just being able to, like, "Oh, let's try this out and see what works." Some kids are like, "Do not put anything in my mouth," like, "Do not do that," and just really
yes.
rolling with, like, what does this child need to be successful, and providing that
Yeah.
support, and also knowing when to, like, fade it, because also with apraxia, especially, you don't want them to be dependent on all the prompting, right? The goal ultimately being to,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
spontaneous connections, right? And
for
it's definitely an
sure.
art that I feel like ebbs and flows, and I'm always learning and trying, and every kid
I
is
love
different.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And I think that I'll tell you another story about my son. We had this speech therapist, and she would come out with him, and she would be sweating from top to bottom.
I believe that.
They had a gym, and
Oh,
it
it's
was
the
the
best.
only way that she could get him to sound out anything was when he was jumping or on the trampoline or running around. Like, it was, the
Yeah.
movement. The
Yeah.
movement,
No.
like, it really helps with getting the words and that, like, just, if you're gonna jump from a place down, ooh-wee, or something like that, right? Just getting, because my son, like, he had nothing.
No, I see that
This
a
is
lot. We're like, you gotta tap into their interests first. I have families where you
Yes.
just gotta back up and be like, "Don't even drill anything. Play with them and see what they're interested in, and
Yes.
let's see if we can imitate some sounds." I mean, like, you can see, like, I got a swing hanging up here in my little office
Yeah,
because
there it is.
sometimes you
Yes.
need movement, like, to motivate that
Yeah.
speech, and it really
Yeah,
is like
for
that, like,
sure.
tap into what they're into and
Mhm.
go from there, because it's that makes a world of difference if you have buy-in from a child. It's like, "This is fun, and I wanna do this thing." And if, like,
Yeah,
I feel like therapy suffers when the child is, like when there's not that internal motivation, when it feels like so much work, right? And there's, like, we gotta shake
sure.
something up
Yes,
to make it
for
have more fun,
sure.
or maybe even taking a break. Like, sometimes a break is good too.
Yeah.
Sometimes families need a reset. I've seen kids make progress too from,
Yes.
like, "Let's take a month off. Let's just go recalibrate and let it
Yeah.
be," and,
Isn't that
like, kinda
crazy?
get back. Yeah.
Do you know what's amazing to me is how resilient my son is. He's been
Man,
going to speech therapy since he was 18 months old, and he doesn't complain. He goes, and I mean,
it's
it's
work.
just what he's known.
Yeah.
But it's what he has known, but it is so much work. Like, I would go crazy. It's like you're practicing a sport,
It
right?
is. They are so hardworking. Those kids with apraxia, they've
Yes.
been in therapy usually 2 to 3 times a week for years,
Yes.
and they're still going.
Yes.
Yeah. They're some of
Yes.
the hardest
Yes, for
working kids
sure.
I've ever seen. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And their families too.
So
I mean, it happens because families are also making it happen.
well, yeah, we do, right? We have to. We have to because
Yeah.
we want our kids to talk. So, yeah. Okay. Now, do you do anything online or is it all in your office?
I do sessions online too for people, who either just sort of too far away in Utah that are like, "I can't," like, I see some kids in St. George virtually, right? And sometimes kids, like, when it's just, like, traffic's too much and they wanna not fight it from home. So I do teletherapy sessions as well, and it just depends. A lot of kids do really well in teletherapy, and especially if they're really young, sometimes it's not a great fit. It really just depends on a child's personality.
Yeah.
I will say most of my sessions are in person, just I think it's easier, especially with the cueing, a lot of times with that prompting, sometimes with
Yes.
the they need that tactile input, they need to see it and feel it.
Huh?
I have
Yeah.
seen it be successful, especially with my older kids with apraxia. I worked with a couple of them remotely who, like, they've been doing it
Mhm.
long enough, they understand, and it works fine, but
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
depends on family preference. Yeah.
It's so freaking COVID. I still have PTSD from that.
That was
But
that was a rough year.
he was oh my gosh, he was like 6, and like, this is not working. It's not gonna work because he's not gonna sit in front of a computer and talk to
Yeah,
you and do exercises or any of that. There's no way. This is not happening. So,
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, that was such a rough year for speech therapy. I mean, for everybody.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
my
I don't know if
gosh.
physical therapists did either. Like, it was hard for everybody.
It was a year
Yeah.
for it was like a year from hell because I think that I really at that time I appreciated teachers and therapists and providers in a much higher
They are
degree of
doing so
appreciation.
much.
than what it was before.
Yeah, 100%.
So we're getting towards the end here. And on my podcast, I always ask. So if you were to tell my moms, the moms that are listening, or the parents, you can't forget about the dads. So
Yes.
if you're going to tell them something, the most important thing that you can think of, what would it be?
I would say just trust your instincts. Like if you have questions about your child, keep asking. Don't let a doctor deter you. Get a new doctor. If you
Mm-hmm.
already have a diagnosis and you're not jiving with your speech therapist, your physical therapist, keep searching. Like it's okay. And also give yourself a pat on the back. There is so much weight on the back of parents that are trying to get the therapy their child needs, the answers questions, and they're often working. They have other kids they're supporting. It is a massive amount of work that they are under. And I think unless
Yeah.
it's another parent of a complex child, nobody really understands that invisible weight they're carrying. Trust your instincts and give yourself grace. Because also, breaks are okay. Your child's going to be okay if it takes a while to get a new speech therapist. If you need a
Yes.
break from stuff, it's okay. They'll be okay. I see kids regularly who go on breaks and they come back. They're okay. So I would say just keep trusting your instincts and give yourself grace. Take those breaks when you need them.
Yeah.
Like it will work out. And just remember, like you got
Love
this
it.
far. Your child is lucky to have you.
Love it. Love it. And take this from a mom of 4 who sees kids at her house for speech therapy. So listen up, everyone. This is a good
Yeah.
one. So, Kira, tell us about how to find you online.
Oh, yeah.
Just, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So on Facebook and social media, my private practice is called Moving Mountain Speech Therapy. That's my Facebook page. I think my Instagram is just Moving Mountain Speech. Such a long name. Later, I was like, I should have shortened that, but Moving Mountain
it's
Speech.
like mine.
Yeah. I know. I was like, oh, that was actually was a lot of letters in the email. But yeah, and I have a website. I'm in the process of trying to make some online courses. I have one for parents who are at home, maybe if that
Awesome.
in between of wondering how to support their child with speech
Mm-hmm.
development. I have one of those courses.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of making a few more. Hopefully
Yeah.
at the end of the year, I'll get those done. But yeah, and I do
Sure.
virtual consults for they can be across state lines for parents who just maybe need help getting
One
like a
second.
roadmap or like,
Yeah.
is this normal? Where can I go for more support? Just because I have found
Yeah.
that sometimes parents just need a little bit of a map for
Just a little
where they
bit.
need.
Yes. Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Well, Kara, thank you so much for coming. It was so great talking to you. Thanks for
Thank you.
listening to me and coming on the show.
Yeah.
This has been great.
I loved it. Thank you for
Everyone,
having me.
yeah, of course. So everyone, we're going to have everything on the show notes and look her up. She's amazing. She's awesome. Watch her and we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Before you go, take a deep breath. You don't have to solve everything today. You don't have to have it all figured out. If this episode helped you feel seen, grounded, or a little less alone, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future conversations. And if you ever want a deeper support, Special Education Concierge is here when you're ready. One step at a time, one decision at a time. You are your child's hero. I'll see you next time.